The Muggle Death Eater and His Daughter by Great 78. Chapter 20. Jealousies and Journeys. A bit earlier the same evening. Bellatrix, meanwhile, was fuming mad. The old elf creature seemed to be acting purposefully obstinate. She was unable to recall the exact location of her old Aunt Walburga's home, Black Manor, a sure sign that the home was now unplottable, and protected by a Fidelius charm. So she had done the next best thing. She'd called Creature to her. "And you'll make sure the house is empty when Potter tries to get in touch with his dear godfather Sirius."
"If you wish it, mistress."
"Yes, I very much wish it, you filthy little creature."
"It's Creature, mistress."
"I don't care about your name, elf. Just do as I say. Do you understand me?"
"Okie dokie."
Creature had heard the phrase somewhere, and had liked the sound of it. He'd decided to adopt it as his own. "Okie what?"
Your wish is my command, mistress."
Creature corrected himself quickly. "That's more like it. Yes. Once we retrieve the prophecy tonight, the Dark Lord will ascend to new heights. He will rise up and stand tall among all men and creatures, great and small." Bellatrix grinned maniacally.
"Is that a short elf joke?" Creature asked with a stern glint in his gaze.
Bellatrix's smile dropped, and she pursed her lips. She raised a hand as though to smack the impertinence out of Creature's mouth. But the elf, chastised, snapped his fingers and popped back to Black Manor. "That elf always was an asshole," muttered Bellatrix as she twisted on the spot, focused on her own destination, Riddle House. Bellatrix swept into the room, a gracious and self-satisfied smile upon her face. "It is done, my lord!" She stopped suddenly, gaze fixed upon the unknown man seated to Voldemort's left. Voldemort's long, pale fingers held the stem of a frothy, creamy orange drink in a Poco Grande glass. Extending from the top of the glass were two straws, one reaching towards her lord, and the other to this stranger. The two men leaned together as though sharing a secret. It almost looked as though she'd walked in on a date from a bygone era, two teenagers sharing a milkshake in one of those Muggle diners that Uncle Alphard had once taken Bellatrix and her sisters to. "Is that an orange creamsicle? I thought that was our drink." Bellatrix frowned petulantly.
"I was not aware we had a drink, Bellatrix."
Voldemort's high, cold voice fell over her like an icy ocean wave. She shuddered, but persisted. "Well, apparently I'm not aware of a lot of things. Who is this, my lord?" Voldemort sighed. Now, it seemed, was the time to introduce his long-lost relative to the group.
"This is my cousin, Richard. His father was my uncle, of the pure-blood Gaunt family, a part of the Sacred 28. He was raised by his Muggle mother, but he has come to claim his rightful place at the side of Lord Voldemort."
Bellatrix's eyes widened, then narrowed. After a moment, she finally found her voice. "Richard, you say?"
"Yes," said Voldemort, with the first hint of a tiny smile, enjoying this tug-of-war display that Bellatrix was starting up.
But Richard was having none of it. "And who might you be?" he asked, with a neutral expression.
Voldemort smiled for real this time. It pleased him to know that his blood relative could hold his own against Voldemort's most trusted follower.
"Who might I be? Who might I be?"
Bellatrix crossed the room quickly, gathering her skirts in one hand and withdrawing her wand with the other.
She placed it just below the man's chin, pushing the tip of it into the skin of his neck. He held her gaze coolly. "I am your worst enemy. I am the thing you fear when you go to bed at night. I am the most loyal, the most ardent, the most fervent supporter of our Dark Lord." "Well, that's rather a long title to put on a calling card," Richard quipped. There were a few titters around the room. Lucius appeared to gulp down the laugh that bubbled in his throat.
"Sit down, Bellatrix,"
Voldemort said, mildly. When the witch did not comply, he sent a lazy stinging hex at her feet. She turned her wild gaze upon him, but realized her mistake immediately. She cast down her eyes and bowed to him. "As you wish, my lord. A chair!" When no one brought her a chair, she turned to the opposite side of the room. With a quick swipe of her wand, Mulciber was knocked from his seat, and his chair zoomed to her. She sat directly in front of Voldemort. He crooked a finger and pointed at the space of floor to his right. She huffed and moved her chair to it. From her new position in the room, she eyeballed this Richard character beadily. Was this the new challenger to her position, then? Not the child that Voldemort had fathered, as she thought. Lucius had said that the invader had been raising the Dark Lord's child, but perhaps it wasn't the child she needed to worry about just yet. Voldemort was explaining his plan for obtaining the prophecy.
"And so I think a team of 12 will be best,"
he was saying. When he was done talking, he struggled a moment with lining up the straw with his mouth, then finally succeeded. He sucked up the last bit of orange creamsicle, then withdrew the straw from the glass, vanishing it wandlessly. From the Dark Lord's left, the Muggle man made a small noise. Voldemort turned to him.
"Do you not agree, Richard?"
"Well, it's not my place to say." "Then shut up," Bellatrix began, but her words were drowned out by Voldemort's.
"Of course it is. You are my cousin. The blood rivers of our family run deep."
Bellatrix could feel her anger surging through the blood rivers of her own veins at that proclamation. "Well, in my experience with missions like this, a smaller team usually works better. You say all we have to do is convince this boy to pick up this prophecy and hand it to one of us." Bellatrix let out a shrill bark of laughter. "You think it will be so simple? You think Dumbledore's chosen one will just hand it over?" "Maybe if we ask nicely." More muffled laughs from around the room. "It's not just that. The more people you go in with, the more chances of mistakes, and the greater chance that more of us will be captured." Voldemort was lost in thought for a moment. Finally he said,
"How many, then, do you suppose?"
"Why not just me and Lucius?" "There is no way you are leaving me out of this!" seethed Bellatrix.
The Dark Lord considered for a moment. "All right, just the 3 of you."
Richard smiled thinly at her. "Looks like we're a trio, then." "My lord, I must insist," began one of the other men nearby. Bellatrix turned swiftly. Antonin Dolohov was on his feet.
Fine, the 4 of you,"
Voldemort said, waving his hand holding his straw lazily. Then he appeared to notice the red, yellow, and white object in his hand once more.
"Richard, as you do not have a wand, perhaps you can use—"
and he extended the straw to the Muggle. "Oh, that's too kind. I
insist. Bellatrix, clean this."
Voldemort held out the straw in her direction now. the straw that he had once told her not to contaminate with her filth. Bellatrix took the straw, pleased to see how much the Dark Lord trusted her with it. There was still a chance for the two of them, then. She locked eyes with him, focusing on the red orbs intently with her own gaze. Her tongue darted out, licking along the side of the straw, all the while fixing him with her best "fuck me" expression on her face. Then she wrapped her lips around its tip and sucked fiercely. Voldemort's upper lip curled back in disgust. "Bellatrix, that's revolting. Use a Scourgify," Voldemort said sternly. Chastised, her hot gaze turned cold instantly. The last OWL examination had finally arrived. History of Magic. No one felt very well prepared, with the possible exception of Hermione, who made it her business to devour every history book that the old ghost Professor Binns ever mentioned. Still, Draco couldn't complain. Because of their ordinarily lengthy, but occasionally cut short by a bit of snogging in the stacks, study sessions, more than just the smell of Hermione's perfume had rubbed off on him. He felt as prepared as he could be. But the examination schedule had taken its toll on several students. The matron, Madame Pomfrey, had already administered several calming draughts to numerous fifth-years. Blaise, Theo, and Pansy had taken to chain-smoking lavender cigarettes in the dungeon loo, and Hannah Abbott had somehow transfigured everyone's teacups at breakfast that morning into tarantulas, resulting in a small but controlled panic as Professors McGonagall and Snape vanished them. Draco was finishing up his final answer on the exam when it happened. Potter had allowed exhaustion to overtake him, and he had passed out, asleep over his examination parchment. Had he simply stayed asleep, no one would have noticed. Instead, the twit sat up, screaming about dogs and mysteries and you-know-who. This caused the second panic of the day as he was ushered out. Draco noticed as the examiner helped Potter from the room that both Hermione and Potter's friend Ron Weasley had worried looks on their faces. Both of them turned in their examination papers quickly and followed Potter. After a moment's indecision and annoyance, Draco did the same. Out in the entrance hall, Hermione and the two Gryffindor wizards were nowhere to be seen. Draco scanned around, finally spotting a flash of brown curls disappearing from the first-floor landing above him. As he hurried up the stairs, a voice called from below, "Oi, Malfoy! What's got your knickers bunched thin?" The lilting voice of Ginny Weasley, coming in from her Care of Magical Creatures class, waylaid him. He turned back to the fourth-year Gryffindor. Whilst he tolerated Ron, and generally got along all right with the twins, both of whom had become friends with Theo over the years, he genuinely sort of liked the only girl Weasley. She seemed to have inherited the most brains of any of them, as well as the fastest-thinking mouth. He told her quickly what had happened. She narrowed her eyes. "Well, let's go find them." With every flue passage but the one in Umbridge's office being monitored, Harry did not see another way around it. They would need to go into her office to confirm what he had seen in his dream. But Hermione really didn't like the idea. "What about an owl? Or we can speak with one of the other professors. Madame Pomfrey?" Yes, she was grasping at straws, but she had to do something. Harry was working himself into a panic, and Ron was doing nothing to help. She needed to be the voice of reason. This dream had been simply that, a dream. No one was waiting for Harry in the Department of Mysteries, for Godric's sake. But he would not be deterred. After a few moments of discussion in front of the library on the second floor, the three of them were joined by Ginny and Draco. "What's happened?" Draco asked quickly. "None of your business," Ron said swiftly. Ever since Draco had been assigned to the Inquisitorial Squad that past autumn, Ron had become increasingly suspicious of Draco. "Hush, Ron," said Ginny. "Harry, what's happened?" As Harry was too distracted, Hermione filled them in on what Harry had supposedly seen, and what his plan was. "We need lookouts," Harry interjected. Apparently he had been formulating a plan as they spoke. "If we're using Umbridge's office, we need to know if she's coming." "Malfoy and I can do that," Ginny replied. "The signal will be jingle bells." "I don't think Malfoy needs to be—" Ron started, but Ginny interrupted. "Good thing nobody asked you to think, then," responded Ginny. "Right. Ron, you go find Umbridge. Feed her a story. Anything. Peeves is tearing up the Transfigurations classroom. Some Hufflepuffs have set fire to the library. Whatever." Harry ran his hands through his hair, exposing the lightning scar. To his credit, Ron simply nodded at his friend and hurried away. "Come on," Harry said, grabbing Hermione's wrist. She did not miss the fleeting look of jealousy that passed across Draco's face. They dashed to the door of Umbridge's office, and Harry withdrew a knife from his pocket, sliding it into the lock. The door opened onto a pink nightmare. Plush pink upholstery covered every seating surface, and manic kittens gamboled sinisterly around the room, on pink porcelain plates affixed to the wall. It looked like something a 6-year-old would design, and knowing that it had been chosen by a fully grown adult gave Hermione the heebie-jeebies. Having seen it before in detentions numerous times, Harry ignored it all, instead going directly to the fireplace and tossing in a pinch of green powder. 12 Grimmauld Place. He pushed his head into the flames, and the upper half of his body disappeared. Hermione sat back to fret and wait. A few moments later, vague singing could be heard in the corridor outside. "Harry!" she called, but he did not seem to hear. She tugged on his robes to no avail. "Harry!" The singing grew louder, then abruptly stopped. The office door practically burst off its hinges. Professor Umbridge stood in the doorway, holding Ron's ear in one hand and his wand in the other. Behind her, Draco had Ginny in front of him. His and Ginny's wands pointed vaguely at her, a wide-eyed expression on his face. "So, you sent a moronic Weasley to lie to my face about the filthy poltergeist destroying a classroom. But I just came from the astronomy tower, where that very same poltergeist was destroying the telescopes." Umbridge pushed Ron further into the room in front of her and stalked to the fireplace. She reached to where Harry's head would be. After groping around for a moment, she grabbed Harry by the hair and yanked him up. "Draco, disarm them!" Umbridge screamed. Harry and Hermione held out their wands to the blonde wizard who, not knowing what else to do, took them. He held them in his right hand with his own and Ginny's wands. "Then you have another Weasley stationed as a lookout, not even realizing that the head of my inquisitorial squad was only a short distance away." Umbridge gestured at Draco, who looked as though he was sizing up the whole situation carefully. "Now," Umbridge turned her beady little stare upon Harry, "who were you trying to contact?" There was a forceful blast from behind Umbridge, and Harry, Hermione, and the 2 Weasleys turned in shock to see Draco pointing all 4 of the wands at the toad-like professor's back. With a wide-eyed, shocked expression, Umbridge fell unceremoniously onto her face on the floor. Perhaps not with all 4 wands next time," Harry said uncertainly. Draco hummed as though pondering an academic question. "Do you think she's dead?" Hermione asked nervously. "Do we care if she's dead?" Ginny wondered. "Never mind all that. Did you talk to Sirius?" Ron asked, for once the voice of reason. "No," Harry said, back on track. "Creature says that he isn't there. No one else was either, apparently. This confirms it. The Dark Lord has him at the Department of Mysteries." "Harry, don't you think it's possible that this is just a trap?" Hermione asked.
After all, you do have a known tendency to want to rescue people you care about.
The dark-haired wizard turned an angry gaze upon her. What do you mean by that?
Not in a bad way, Hermione explained hurriedly. It's just, well, the Chamber of Secrets with Ginny, and wanting to believe the best in Sirius. The Triwizard Tournament with that little girl.
Yeah, thanks for the vote of confidence, Harry snarled. Hold on, Potter. There's no need for you to be an asshole. She's only trying to help. Draco began, but he was cut off by Ginny. Listen, while you two gits are fighting this out, Sirius could be dying, she pointed out. Ginny's right. I'm going to the Minister of Magic, and...
Harry, no!
Hermione protested as Ron talked over her. I'm going too. Ginny added, I'm coming as well. Draco sighed and spoke up. Have any of you actually been to the bottom floors of the Ministry of Magic before? Do you know the closest flue point?
Ron looked uncertainly at the others.
No, but I'm sure we can... Are you volunteering to show us? Harry asked quickly.
Draco!
Hermione locked eyes with him. This wasn't a good idea, she tried to tell him, but she could already see that he had made up his mind. I'll help you. Salazar helped me, but I'll do it. Why? Asked Ron in a wary tone. Draco sighed and rubbed his temples. Noticing that he still held 3 of their wands, he offered them back to the others. Ron picked up his wand from the ground near Umbridge's hand. Because, as much as I would prefer to sit all this out and not have to take a side, I have a feeling that isn't possible any more. Hermione's choosing your side, and I'm choosing hers.
Hermione's concerns and misgivings abated for a moment as the meaning of Draco's words washed over her. Her stomach felt as though it had been suddenly invaded by a kaleidoscope of butterflies.
Ginny raised one eyebrow and smirked. Well, that was swoon-worthy, Malfoy. Shut up, Gin, Ron grumbled. Fine, you can come, Malfoy, but watch yourself, because I'll be watching you. One wrong move, yeah, I'll be vomiting slugs for days, got it? Draco waved a hand dismissively. Right, so the Ministry Visitors' entrance is about 4 blocks from the Standard Hotel. I think that's the closest flue point, then. We can count on being open right now. I know the bloke who works in the office where the flue is located. He won't bat an eye to us coming through. Draco stepped through the flue at the Standard and gave a quick salute to Basil Fawlty, who sat at his desk, opening his post with a sharp letter-opener. In Basil's surprise at the sudden intrusion, the letter-opener slipped and cut the man's arm. As the others stepped through the flue, the cut grew steadily worse, with blood now streaming across his desk blotter. Oh, Merlin, Basil, sorry about that. Are you all right? Draco asked. By now, the other 4 had pushed through the flue and were staring agape at the bloodied man. "'Tis but a scratch," Basil said determinedly, turning white from shock. "A scratch? Your arm's off?" Ron said queasily, looking rather pale himself. Though Basil's arm was still entirely attached, the cut did look quite awful.
"Can I fix it for you?"
Hermione asked urgently. "Yes," whispered Basil. When the healing was done, the skin unblemished once more, and the blood vanished, Hermione said,
"There you are. Not even a flesh wound any more."
"I'm forever grateful, miss," Basil intoned. Basil was a squib, Draco knew, and would have had a hard time healing the cut. "Off to enjoy an evening in London, then? Jolly good." The group nodded and smiled, and managed to leave the office rather quickly. "What an odd man," Harry said. "Was that a dead parrot in that cage in the corner?" "Yes," whispered Draco and Ginny at the same time. As the telephone booth lowered into the ground, holding its 5 squished occupants, Draco wondered for easily the 1,000th time in the last hour what he thought he was doing. This wasn't his fight, and if it was, he wasn't on the same side as the rest of his family, he felt sure. He pointed the way to the inconspicuous door at the end of the corridor, deep in the underbelly of the Ministry of Magic. His father had pointed out this very door every time they had come downstairs to the Wizengamot when he was younger. "Yes, just like I saw it," Potter breathed. "You've never been here, Harry?" Hermione reminded him. She and Draco exchanged nervous looks. Truthfully, this was neither of their fights, and yet here they were, backing up a wizard who had funny dreams about places he'd never been, and who appeared to be spoiling for a fight with the darkest wizard of the modern age. Through the door, into the spinning chamber, through door after door, Draco's misgivings grew. How would they find their way out of this labyrinth? "This is it! This is the room! The Hall of Prophecies!" Harry finally exclaimed as they opened the door to a room filled with glittering glass spheres. "We just need to find row 97. Dutifully, the 4 of them followed the dark-haired wizard. "Here! They should be here." But no one was there. No Sirius Black begging for his life. No Voldemort holding him at wand point. "They should be here," Potter said plaintively. "But they're not," Draco replied with an edge to his voice. Salazar Sack. Why had he allowed this situation to progress? He should have been at the after-finals party in the Slytherin common room. His biggest concern tonight should have been trying to work out whether Hermione might come into his dormitory for a bit of post-examination fun, not whatever the hell this was. "Sirius isn't here, but I think someone else is," Hermione said. "What makes you say that?" Weasley asked nervously. "Maybe she's got a 6th sense about these things," said a woman's voice from the shadows. Red hair, robes too short. Must be a Weasley." The woman stepped out of the nearby shadows, her wild eyes roaming over the 5 of them. "Let's see who else we have. Ah, a girl Weasley, too. And the chosen one, of course. And is that Draco?" At these final words, the woman's voice changed from a knowing drawl to flummoxed shock. Draco stared wild-eyed at the woman. He knew her from the photograph in the Daily Prophet. His mother's sister, Bellatrix. Had Narcissa known she was back all along? It had been months since Bellatrix's escape with the others from Azkaban. Where had they been hiding? And how had she gotten here? All of these questions fell from his mind, however, as soon as the other 3 men stepped from the shadows behind Bellatrix. Draco refocused his attention, blinked hard, and looked again. It was impossible. "Father! Mr. Granger!" he called hoarsely. At the same time, next to him, Hermione whispered in disbelief, "Dad?" Thank you for listening to this chapter of The Muggle Death Eater by Great78.